pro-Hamas TikToks. He's been big into the debunking TikToks game. I really like this shot of Ben Shapiro in the middle of this transition. It's trippy. This is the Ben Shapiro you see in your dreams. The not quite all the way corporeal Ben Shapiro. Sleep paralysis Sharipo. This version of Ben Shapiro can make his wife wet. All right, let's go.
Alrighty, folks. So TikTok is filled with pro-Hamas people standing for the terrorist. Alrighty, folks. So TikTok is filled with pro-Hamas people standing for the terrorist group. We're going to go through some of their videos. And
standing the terrorist group. Do you think that... Okay, anyone think the terrorist group is just going to be Palestinians? Someone's going to be pro-Palestine, and he's going to say, well, that's Hamas, actually.
We will see what shining bright moral lights they have, how much nuance they can provide. This video is sponsored by friends of Genucel.
Whenever you start losing hope, just remember that this hashtag, the ones that say stand with Israel, got millions of views, but the Palestine ones got multi-millions of views, baby, almost triple. Don't ever let the media fool you. The people stand with Palestine. This is with all of the money that Israel spends on propaganda. It doesn't matter. The people are still hashtagging Palestine way more and viewing it way more than Israel. So.
I agree that the people, regular people, are more along the lines of with Palestine than ever. It seems like polling numbers, they're all over the place. I mean, we can pull some up, I guess. I'm sure someone in chat can find... Remember those... I mean, there's pictures that went around. I didn't know I was going to... He was doing so many TikToks. I didn't prepare for this TikTok. Like, we're talking like 66% plus % of all voters across political spectrums think that Israel at least support a ceasefire. And then many more support, like, a two-state solution, for instance, ones that are opposed to the apartheid state that Israel has, at least. And a lot of people are for, like, you know, a straight-up fuck Israel thing. Not like a Hamas situation, though. People are mad that the nationalist Zionist, you know, IDF, you know, the Israeli government is fucking far right-wing. Ben knows that. He likes that shit. It's the kind of place he'd like to be. I don't know why. That's actually interesting, man. It's probably maybe because he can make more money here doing what he's doing, you know. But I think I feel like, well, it is a little more dangerous there, obviously. But I feel like he'd be happier there from a government perspective. Something commend Yamahas or something. Yeah, I mean, every time, like, I mean, we can talk about this more, but I don't know how you can blame anybody for joining Hamas when they are in Palestine. Like, I don't agree with Hamas. I don't think nationalism is the answer. There's a you know, far right religious component of Hamas that's really bad. But a lot of those people, like, are in Hamas in Palestine. They were radicalized because they were orphans or something. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't have a chance to have a reasonable point of view because you radicalized them by bombing them and murdering them. Like, and humiliating them for, you know, generations. I just, how are these people supposed to have my kind of outlook because they're so close to it? I don't know. Anyway. What option do they have? I mean, you would join Hamas if, like, Ben Shapiro would join the fucking Antifa super soldiers on the streets if they were helping defend his community from someone he thought was an immediate material threat to himself and his family. He would side by side stand with leftists that would not like him, but they'd be fighting on the same side of it. You know what I mean? Like, there are these situations that happen. Sometimes that's what you got to do, man. I mean, I don't think anyone that was born in Palestine thinks that, like Hamas is 100% good, you know. there's some fucking true believers for sure, but, like, most people have a pretty nuanced stance on this.
Oh, Don't ever forget
Well,
that.
you know why that is? Because there are 15 million Jews on
Hamas literally fucking funds
the planet.
Israel is literally funded. Netanyahu's government has funded Hamas.
And there are 1 billion Muslims on the planet. That would be the reason. I love the conspiratorial. The Jews with their money.
The Jews?
Money Jews. But we are still winning because the people love us.
It's not the Jews, it's the state of Israel, which is a state. It is a country that exists through imperial means after the World War II. Anyway, it exists, though, and then they broke promises, and then they ceded land, and then they created an apartheid state for a group of people that lives in and around this area. It's just what happened. I mean, it has nothing to do with, like, Jewish conspiracy shit. There's a lot of those right-wing grifters. There's Jackson Hinkle's one of them. Really disgusting. They're essentially using this because they can use the anti-Semitism to just like get retweets from people that are normies but have the right take on the Palestine-Israel situation. Stupid.
Or maybe there are 1 billion Muslims and a huge number of them hate Israel and are anti-Semitic.
Be very careful of what you say about Israel. Any believer going against Israel, you are making yourself an enemy against God.
I don't know how this Zionist propaganda made it to the black community, but it is incorrect. First of all, Palestinians and Israelis worship the same God. It's the God from the Abrahamic religions. Second of all, Palestine is not going against God by not wanting to give up their land to Israel, land that they've lived on for hundreds of thousands of years.
It is the same God, by the way. I think Ben's going to disagree with that. It is actually the same God, but they worship it differently. They have different ideas of how it acts, but it's the same Abrahamic God. It has literally the same roots of. I don't know why he would disagree with that.
Whoa, hundreds of thousands. That's an amazing piece of news. Hundreds of thousands of years Palestinians have been living there? That's kind of strange. Hundreds of thousands of years. Well, this person's a historical genius. As far as the Palestinians and the Israelis are worshiping the same God, it is true that Allah and God are the same God. It is not true that the Palestinians are worshiping the same God as the Israelis, not in this conflict, where Hamas is worshiping a death cult.
What a fucking virtue signal, bro. Hamas. Of course, Palestinians again was the word used, and then he just says no. Actually, that's a synonym for Hamas, which is the insidious part of all of this, which is what people have been saying forever. This is the correct. Most people, I think, have become, if they're not just crazy, they've become privy to this. You literally just said, yeah.
If the U.S. and the European nations are so for Israel, they should give them land from Europe or land from the United States to live on.
The Jews are indigenous. The Jews are the indigenous people of the land of Israel. It's why Judea is called Judea. God, the historic ignorance here, suggesting the Jews are somehow the colonial outpost in the Middle East, when Jews predated the existence of Islam by some 2 millennia or so. It's so crazy. These people...
So... Okay, this is so much more complicated than this because the people that were moved into there did have some lineage, of course, but then there was post-World War diaspora situations. There was, we're relocating a lot of people. These are different cultures now. It's so much more complicated than that. I don't really buy into the whole thing. I mean, what we have is what we have right now. There's nothing we can do about lands that have been colonized and settled for hundreds of years and multiple generations. We weren't responsible for that. What we are responsible for is continuing it, right? And maintaining the status quo. For instance, the West Bank and the settler situation. Like, this is a thing that's happening now with, like, Americans are doing that live in Brooklyn that have, legal ties to Israel. They fucking are settling on these lands that they don't have no fucking ties to, really. Like, this isn't right, man. Of course, Ben can't be dealt with here, but it's just like, it's so insidious from every angle you can look at. Like, Israel is just not right in this conflict. It just isn't. You know what? Let's just ignore all of this. Are you for or against war crimes? But no, he likes war crimes. He absolutely likes war crimes. It's like a native from America moving to Europe when their great-grandkids coming to New York and taking your house. Yeah.
People don't know anything. They're so ignorant, and they are so unbelievably stupid. By the way, the argument that she's making about repatriating Jews to, say, Europe, where last time Jews were repatriated there, it ended really poorly. You know what I noticed? If you look at a map of the Middle East, Israel is like this big. And if you look at all the Muslim countries surrounding it, they're like this big. And yet none of them are taking in any of the Palestinian refugees. Weird. Weird how that works. Strange. Doesn't matter that 800,000 Jews were expelled from Arab and Muslim lands in 1948 to 1957. That doesn't matter. And that Israel took all of them in, and 0 Palestinians have been absorbed by anyone in the surrounding area, specifically to use as a tool against the Jews. Now, the real...
What do you mean take them in? They weren't taken in. If they were taken in and allowed to have, like, a culture alongside the Jewish community in Israel like it always should have been, like, Israel used to be like a multicultural place. And now you have far right-wing governments try to homogenize everything. And wow, are we surprised that at the crux of all Western religion, at the very heart of it, we have intense conflict to this day. I wonder what the real problem is when we really get down to it. I wonder what foundations led to this. What could it be? Don't know.
Really, the United States should set aside a part of Montana for the Jews in the historic Jewish homeland of Montana.
Yeah, I'm not into that either.
I can't even critique the stupidity. Every moment I spend with these people makes me dumber. It's unreal.
They should let them make a country there, not on Palestine.
Palestine is a fiction. Palestine is a fiction. It was made up by the Romans after the expulsion of Jews in 136 CE after the Bar Kokhba revolt. And it was made up with the name Palestine specifically to mock the Jews because it was supposed to be a representation of the Philistines.
The Bible does not say anything about Israel because Israel was created in 1948 when the British and the United Nations decided to fight a war with Palestine.
What the f*** is she talking about?
He swears now? Ooh, edgy Ben.
What in the world is she talking about? Fight a war with Palestine? In what sense? This is such pseudo-history. These people...
What, fight a war with Palestine? Wait, he doesn't... Well, that's interesting. Okay, so now it's pseudo-history. There actually have been major conflicts.
People are morons. They're morons. The British mandate was in place until 1947. The Balfour Declaration declared a Jewish state on both sides of the Jordan. That would be Israel and what is today Jordan. And then, over subsequent years, the British then whittled that down. They cut off all of Jordan and handed it to the Arabs. They then cut off most of the land of Israel and handed it to the Arabs. Israel and the Jews accepted every one of those deals, every one of them, including a rump state that was indefensible.
Really didn't, though. And no, I mean, all of this was so stupid. Oh, man. And it's like, he has no problem with the imperialism that led to this point. Like, do you think that maybe that was bad? Do you have any problem with the whole imperialism thing that led to, like, you're complaining about it right now.
It's called by many Jews the Auschwitz borders after World War II because it's so indefensible. The Jews accepted every one of those deals. The Arabs rejected every one of those deals. What the hell is she? And then she's suggesting that the United States and the Brits fought a war.
Of course, the Arabs in the area rejected the deal because the Western nations split up their fucking lands and created countries that didn't exist. Just like you said the Romans did. But once it was the countries that you agree with now, you think it's like a thing that they can do? It's crazy, dude.
Against the Arabs here? The British, during the 1930s, restricted Jewish immigration into British Mandate Palestine at the behest of the Arabs, leaving millions of Jews to die in Europe. It was so bad that the Jews in Israel had to smuggle Jews in boats, trying to evade the British.
Oh, do you think wait a second, illegal border crossings? You're in favor of illegal border crossings? Ben, why are you in favor of Jews violating the most sacred laws of all, our dear and beloved borders? Whoa. I wonder why you have empathy for this specific group of people and their struggle. What could it be? What could it be that ties your empathy to this?
in order to get Jews away from the Holocaust that was happening in Europe. The Jews were forbidden from actually importing either guns or ammunition into British Mandate Palestine, necessitating the creation of underground bullet factories in the state of Israel in order so they could even defend themselves. When the British Mandate ended, the British summarily turned...
Do you agree with oppressed people banding together and creating arms to push off their oppressors, Ben? And fighting for a better life? Well, let me tell you about a plucky little place called the Gaza Strip. Let me tell you about a place where a group of people have been trying really hard to do this for a long, long time.
Over many of the key strategic locations and weapons to the Arabs. Again, these people don't know history. They don't even pretend to know history. They Google something on Wikipedia and then promptly fail to even interpret it properly.
And cut that country in half to create an ethno-state for Ashkenazi Jewish people. And ever since that war, Israel has taken more and more and more of Palestine's territory.
Okay, Israel accepted the partition plan by the UN in 1947-48. The Arabs rejected it and launched a war. Israel won the war and got a little bit more territory. In 1967, the Arab nations launched an all-out war to destroy Israel, and in 6 days, Israel took the entirety of what is now modern-day Israel, including Judea, Samaria, and the Gaza Strip. In 1973, another all-out war by the Arabs. In 1979, Israel gave...
It's so disingenuous to say an all-out war by the Arabs, and then Israel was just defending itself in every single one of these cases. Crazy.
Back the entire Sinai Desert to Egypt. In 1995, under the Oslo Accords, Israel surrendered the Gaza Strip as well as large swaths of Judea and Samaria to terrorist groups in order to attempt to buy a peace. These people don't know anything about history. They don't even pretend to know anything about history. It's absurd. We'll get to more on this in just one.
I'm going to sip my juice and skip this for whatever fucking creams. Don't buy any of Ben's creams, chat. Boycott Ben's creams.
Feel ashamed of our support of the Palestinian people. We will never be harassed into silence.
Black student organizers at Harvard are being attacked by Zionist and right-wing forces for their support of Palestine. Their faces are being shown on trucks around campus, accusing them of being anti-Semites.
Well, it's interesting. Do you like cancel culture, Ben? How do you feel about it?
Okay, actually, can we fill that in right there? Sure. The reason that those trucks are on campus is because a bunch of student groups signed a statement blaming Israel for the massacre of Jews and backing Hamas. That would be the reason. That would be the actual reason.
And backing Hamas. I think you mean they just said that they were for Palestine's freedom from oppression here.
Despite these efforts to derail their organizing, they say they will not be deterred.
We resolutely stand in solidarity with the Palestinian resistance against the apartheid state that is Israel. It is genocide of the Palestinian people right now.
Yeah, it is, man.
It is primarily black and Arab students that are facing the brunt of these racist attacks.
Oh, I mean, I feel terrible for you. I feel so terrible for you. You're leading a terrible life. I mean, you're the subject of such racist attacks. I mean, not like the babies who were burned to death in the Gaza envelope, but...
I hope you have a fantastic day.
Strange to appeal to dead babies here, Ben. In a hard right turn. Impossibly large orifice. Thanks for 21 months. Hey, chat, you can interrupt Ben at any time. You know that? You guys could just... We could just interrupt Ben.
But really, it's been very rough for you when people actually show your face on a billboard and say that you hate Jews when you're clearly standing for a terrorist group.
I feel so
terrible for you. Ugh, the horror. Ugh, the victimization.
But none of that changes our solidarity with Palestine. We believe in a free Palestine from the river to the sea.
Ah, there it is. From the river to the sea. The river to the sea, by the way, is extermination of Israel. It's the Jordan River, the Mediterranean Sea. That means no Jews, all dead. That's what that means.
No Jews, all dead. Free from the river to the sea does not mean that all Jews have to die. They just don't want to be... like, Imprisoned. So here's the problem, though. You've pushed these people into a fucking corner where how are any of these people not going to be radicalized against your government? Like, you're just so abhorrent. This is just terrible. This is they've killed like 10,000 plus people. Fucking millions are probably going to die, though, when it's all said and done. I would not be shocked if half the population, like, without the fucking water and medicine that they need. People are running out of supplies to live because they're fucking surrounded. And no one will let them leave. No one will let them into their country. Because they're all fucking scared to death of some kind of fucking 9/11 thing happening because you let some terrified people into your country. So fucking stupid. I hate humanity so much. That's why I love you guys.
Never cowered and never shied away. We are here today to do the exact same.
Okay, well, that's fine. You just don't have to work for any big law firm. That's okay. It seems to me that if you are a big business, if you are a legal firm, you have no obligation to hire people who support baby murderers.
Actually, Hamas started this whole thing. Remember October 7th? Actually, that's wrong. Before October 7th, Israeli security forces killed 248 Palestinians, and 40 of them were children, and that was just this year.
Yeah,
if you want to go back further than that, we can look at the recent history of war crimes committed by the Israeli government. Operation Protective Edge in 2014, Operation Pillar of Defense in 2012,
All these
Operation
operations
in 2009.
What started each one of those operations? Islamic barrages of rockets into civilian centers in Israel. That's what started each one of these operations. I love this moron. I guess the idea here is that, if you point out that what has caused
rockets from where? Where'd the rockets come from? From the Gaza Strip? Why would people in Gaza want to shoot rockets at the walls and in the fucking buildings and shit? Like, I agree, it's not good to shoot a fucking rocket into an apartment building or whatever. What I don't agree with is you being shocked and surprised when the people you've kept in a fucking prison, like, it's Escape from New York and being surprised when you fly over into New York prison that there's prisoners in the prison doing prisoner shenanigans. It's like, there's going to be some crime there, yeah. There's gonna be some hoodlums and some hoodwinkers. There's gonna be some shenanigans afoot in a place with bereft of humanity. When you squeeze the fucking humanity out of a place by putting them on the fucking sea, like, what do you expect to happen? It's so fucking insane for you to be like, yeah, they were just on their best behavior. But this is exactly what these fascists want, dude. They just want blood. They want reasons to be able to exterminate people. I don't know, man.
The current conflict is the massacre of 1,500 Jews. Like, well, before that, Israel killed other Palestinians. You're like, yeah, but why would they do that? And the answer is because they were associated with terrorist groups.
They're not only killing people associated with terrorist groups. He couldn't even make eye contact with the camera through that sentence. Look at him.
Other Palestinians. You're like, yeah, but why would they do that? And the answer is because they were associated with terrorist groups. And he's like, yeah, but what about the conflict before? Oh, you mean because the terrorists were firing rockets into Israel? It's an infinite regress of dumb here. Just name a bunch of operations without actually explaining why the operations were initiated.
Yeah, but you don't.
Why the operations were initiated. So you're justifying killing kids again. Just nuts.
Don't mention why Cast Lead happened. Hamas fired rockets into
Here it
Israel.
comes.
And that was because Israel broke the ceasefire agreement they had on November 4th, 2008, while the entire world was in euphoria over the United States electing its first black president, Barack Obama. Israel used the opportunity to break the ceasefire agreement and raid Gaza and kill Palestinians.
For no reason, they're just raiding Gaza, just for fun. They just raid Gaza. To do what exactly? To steal their nothing? What would the raid entail? What would be the purpose of such a raid? Mm-hmm. Can you explain? Like, what are the great valuable jewels being held in Gaza that these raids?
The jewels? Why would it be justifiable to raid Palestinian homes for jewels? Why don't they have anything? Their land. Yeah, so anyway, the land is what you want. Yeah, that's true. Well, also, I thought he was going to say, like, they were hunting for terrorists. So he's just denying outright that the ceasefire was broken.
Israelis desperately need to get their hands on. Israel so desperately wanted not to be in Gaza that they surrendered the place to a fucking terrorist group for 20 years, who then spent every last dime building rockets and terror tunnels so as to murder 1,500 Jews. You know, and one thing that I've noticed, they keep saying they're running out of power, they're running out of fuel, they're running out of water. You know the thing they haven't been running out of? Rockets.
Well, you're leaving out a lot of context. You got to go back further than that. To 1967? Yeah, let's go back to 1967, when Israel started a preemptive war.
Egypt was mobilizing its air force.
Syria and Jordan, and took more
They were mobilizing their air force.
land from Palestine, further enclosing Palestinians into the Gaza Strip. They illegally.
He has bought into every piece of propaganda he's ever heard about every country he likes. America, Israel, maybe that's it. Nazi Germany. He loves it all. He loves every fucking one of those countries. Isn't that weird?
Occupied the Gaza Strip and the West Bank in what has been formally condemned ever since 1967 as an illegal occupation in violation of international law, unilaterally condemned by the World Court.
Who gives a shit about the World Court?
Oh, the World Court. Just the court. Did the World Court have anything to do with justice for post-Holocaust victims?
You mean organizations staffed by people who hate Israel, and the UN and the Red Cross? Like,
the UN, the Red Cross,
oh my God,
the Geneva Conventions,
the Geneva Conventions.
Consensus.
He's doing this in defense of Hamas, the Geneva Conventions.
In the world, all call on Israel to return.
Wait, does he disagree with the Geneva? What? Wait, does he actually? So the Geneva Conventions are pretty good. They're just about the ethics of fucking warfare and shit. He doesn't like those?
To its pre-June 1967 borders.
That's not even true. That's not even true. Even the UN resolutions, which are garbage and stupid, even those UN resolutions call on Israel to surrender some of the occupied territories. Not all occupied territory. Those are disputed territories. Some occupied territories.
Yeah, but you're missing more context. You got to go back to 1948. Okay, let's go back to 1948.
No, 67 was fine. Please stop.
1948, Zionists extirpated about 1 million Palestinians from their homes and forced them to relocate to the Gaza Strip.
What? Excuse me. In 1947-48, there was a full-scale war between Arabs and Israelis. Somewhere between 700 and 800,000 Palestinians either fled or were expelled from areas.
Yes, that's what was said.
There was military activity.
Yep.
Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians left.
What do you mean? There was military activity. How do you think that is accomplished, Ben? To forcefully move 1 million people without any military occupation? That'd be crazy. You just wouldn't be able to do it. They used the military. The military was. That's how you do that, Ben.
In the lead up to the war and during the war, because all social services had collapsed because the Arab nations were telling them to get out. The other part is that you may have noticed many Arabs remain, which is why 20% of Israel's population currently is Israeli Arab. The Gaza Strip was then governed by Egypt. I don't see this guy calling for Egypt to form a Palestinian state in the Gaza Strip. The West Bank was completely occupied by Jordan from 48 to 67. No call for a Palestinian state. Weird. Again, the Jews took in 800,000 expelled Jews from all the Muslim countries in the region during the same period, took in all of them. I don't see this guy calling for return of the Jews to their historic homelands of Morocco, their historic homeland of Egypt and Iraq.
Today.
I don't think anyone's advocating for historical relocation efforts, really. Most people just want there to be a two-state solution. Like, just everybody gets to fucking live in the country and just live their lives. That's all they want to do. Live their lives. You can have cultural centers. We don't have lines. And we do not have to have little lines that say, I own this. This is ours. You just have fucking communities and it'll organically happen. It'll be the Palestinian part. The Gaza Strip could have been like, you know, any kind of place where you have high concentrations of a subculture in that space, like a Chinatown, but hopefully less racist. But obviously, you know, Knowing what we know about this situation, likely not less racist.
About 70% of all Gazans are considered refugees from the 1948 expulsion.
Okay, pause that for a second. How is that even possible? Seriously, how's that even possible? Well, folks, unfortunately,
that's it.
There's a lot of crap out there that is just like this, and so we had to do a part 2.
Oh, great. He wasn't going to finish that thought before they edited it out for some reason? How is this even possible? All right. So that's Ben. He did such a good job. He debunked stuff. Didn't he debunk it? He debunked it a lot. I felt like, well, now aren't you guys Zionists? Are you guys now nationalists? It worked. There was some quality argumentation from your boy, Ben. Never hated a man more? Yeah, he's a bad guy.